is Andy here from the Artist Grid. With COVID hitting, we have decided to focus on artists affected by this pandemic and to try to share some of their stories with you through our podcast, Tag Talks. COVID is going to do a lot of damage to our communities and our people we love and care about. Events that have been planned are being canceled, plans that have long been in place have been uprooted. We want to use this platform to invite people on to talk about how COVID has hit them, what they had planned, and what they are currently doing. With that being said, please enjoy this episode. All right, my name is Andy Bauer. I am here on behalf of the Artist Grid. We're doing Tag Talks here, the COVID version with Nick Novotny on behalf of the Rochester Thaw and all the other things that Nick Novotny is involved with, such as Loudmouth Brass and Little Thistle Brewing. If that's cool, I just want to start and talk with you about, you guys kind of got hammered with like the whole process of the state shutting down, Minnesota that is, with Rochester Thaw. You guys were supposed to have a show that weekend. And then it was like the Friday before it all got shut down?
Pretty much.
The Friday of?
Yeah, so it was the Friday before. We were all listening to the live like coverage of it was the first of like the big few announcements from the governor where it was like, okay, you can't do X, Y, and Z. And as soon as that came out, it was immediately trying to figure out what that meant for our festival that was supposed to happen a week from that exact moment. And so in the end of everything, we had to pull the plug. It was, we had options to do it, but the way we wanted to do it and the way that we wanted to kind of present everything, it wouldn't have been what we had wanted it to be for us, for people attending, for bands, for sponsors and all that stuff. It would have been essentially something that didn't live up to the expectation that we had for the entire event. So for that, and for obviously safety and well-being of everybody that was going to attend or travel to Rochester for it, we kind of made the decision to pull the plug at that point.
And how long, you guys have been working on this the entire year? This is your second year at it.
Yeah. So the like we had the date for this past year pretty much the week after last year's happened. Wanted to give way more lead time because the first year we did it, I think everything got thrown together in like 3 months, which was a little nutty. And so having a full year essentially to get bands lined up and get all the logistic stuff figured out, and then grow it at the same time, that it was essentially, I think by the time I started booking the first band, it was probably like 8 or 9 months worth of stuff leading up to this year, which made pulling the plug even more enjoyable. But so that's kind of the timeline we had. We had the date almost immediately after the first year, but then we really started hitting the ground running by 8-9 months before we announced that we had to not do it.
And have you guys, I know it was, obviously canceled. Are you planning on rescheduling or just pushing to next year, or how does this affect what you guys do?
So in terms of the festival for this year, that's pretty much, that's it. Trying to reschedule we had 11 bands for the festival itself, and then 2 at a pre-party, and then another one at an after party. Trying to make all of that line up at some point in the future would have been a little bit of a logistical nightmare, plus the fact that we don't know when we're allowed to like safely and like at all do anything. So trying to essentially pinpoint some date in the future that we have no idea what that is. By the time we could be cleared, we might as well just start doing stuff for next year anyway. So by the time we all this is cleared out and everything is kind of back to some idea of normal, it's going to be about time to start getting everything lined up to do it. So in terms of this year, it's done. We have a couple ideas for some smaller scale stuff that we hope to do once we can. But obviously we're taking that in the realm of, we need to make sure it's safe to do anything. We want to make sure it's good to do anything and good for the people attending and playing and all that stuff. So we have ideas, but in terms of anything definitive, no.
And so, how does this affect you guys, like in a financial sense? Like, you guys have sponsors and things like that. Are you guys out money? Are you guys, I know a lot of festivals right now. It's kind of up in the air. Like, are they going to be able to continue? And it sounds like you guys are on that path of being able to continue. But I just wanted to just kind of pick your brain about that.
Yeah. So the thing that we wanted to do once we knew that we weren't gonna be having the festival this year, all of our sponsors were small businesses around Rochester and whatnot, and so we wanted to make sure that those businesses that are also going to get hit by this really hard had everything that they could to essentially keep going, keep paying staff, keep the lights on, do whatever. So as soon as possible, we went and returned any sponsorship money that came in from those small businesses. And we had expenses that we still have expenses that were incurred prior to us canceling, and we are able to fulfill those. We got a grant from the Rochester Downtown Alliance this year. It was like a startup grant, and they're allowing us to essentially cover the incurred expenses that we got, so we don't essentially have to bankrupt what is a brand new company, because that's a new aspect of this that came out with it between year 1 and 2 is there's now a legal company associated with the festival and all that stuff. So we're able to essentially cover our expenses that we had incurred, and pay people that we needed to pay. And then the rest of that grant money is going to roll into the GoFundMe fundraiser that we're doing. So yeah, so we're able to keep going at this point.
Hell yeah! Do you want to elaborate a little bit more on the GoFundMe? I know what it is, but I just want to just
Yeah.
talk about it.
So when the festival got pulled, we were sitting around trying to think of what is something that we could do, whether that be like some variety of live stream of the festival or something like that. And we were seeing online all over the place musicians who were obviously out of what is months of income because shows aren't a thing and festivals aren't a thing. And so we were thinking of ways to essentially try and help those people who lost income due to not being able to play shows here in Rochester. Right away, there was a bunch of stuff out of the Twin Cities and other areas that were really picking up some steam for that. But that was seemingly kind of localized to those areas. And so we wanted to come up with something that could support the immediate Rochester area and those musicians that work here or that are based out of here. So that was kind of the idea of doing this GoFundMe, and essentially the whole goal is to just raise money and then distribute that to musicians who don't have an income right now. Not necessarily to replace all the income. This isn't like a be all. Like obviously we're a pretty small organization. There's bigger things at play for helping in a really grand scale, but trying to do something to kind of help a little bit, supplement some amount of income at this point, or just to have some extra money to do whatever you need to do with while you can't work, essentially.
Mm-hmm. And how would we find that online as well? I'll post links here later.
Yeah, so we've been bumping it out. If you go to the Rochester Thaw Facebook page or the Instagram, you'll find links for that. That's just directly we set it up as a GoFundMe, and then we're working with 2 partners. One of them is RDA, that the group that gave us the grant. They're allowing us to roll over whatever we didn't need for expenses directly into that fund. So that'll be a nice, that's a huge addition that we'll be able to add to that pile. And then we're working with Little Thistle. This year we did a collaboration beer between us, Thesis Beer Project, and Little Thistle to make a beer specific for the festival. And the beer got made, the beer was done, and all of a sudden the festival didn't happen. So we had all this beer on hand, and so they are essentially having a portion of every beer that gets sold of that particular beer. A portion of that's going to go into that fund as well. So you can go and you can buy crowlers of that beer at Little Thistle, and a portion of that money that you spend on that is going to go towards that same GoFundMe. So there's kind of a few different avenues where you have at our disposal essentially to raise money for that fund.
And then you guys, I know you personally worked at Little Thistle. Are you guys still open for business? It sounds like you guys are doing drive up and
Yep.
deliveries. Is that what I heard?
Yeah. So we've kind of pivoted. Obviously, our model that we opened on was tap room, like come into the space and hang out, and we can't do that anymore. And so us, as well as all the others in Rochester, have pivoted to like a to-go only sort of situation. And so we're having we have a whole online ordering system on our website where you can go prepay for beer. And then we have a drive-through setup where you just pull up, and then we have a zero contact pickup. So it's safe for people picking up beer. It's safe for all of our staff that are going to be working this thing. And so, yeah, we're still rolling, and we're still coming out with new stuff. It just looks a little bit different than it normally does.
And are you guys doing any shipping, or is it just picking up at site or delivery?
It's just picking up on site.
Nice.
We aren't doing delivery. I know a couple places are, but we aren't at this point. So it's just pretty much you order online and you come drive by and pick it up.
Okay. And then I also wanted to ask. I think you said you had 14 bands. You had 11 main bands, two pre-party, and then one post. So can you go over just? I want to get everyone that you had booked, if you can remember off the top of your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the pre-party was going to be the Friday the 20th, and that was Mike Munson and J.E. Sunday, and that was going to be at Little Thistle. And then the main festival was it was Tessa Stites. Actually, hold on, give me a second. I'm just going to look this up because I know I'm going to forget. There's a bunch of names on this list, and I don't want to be a jabroni and forget anybody.
Absolutely.
Because I was saying and typing these things all the time, but now I have since not been doing that as much, obviously.
I feel like you should get a tattoo for each year that you do.
Man, that'd be a whole bunch of ink. Okay, here we go. All right, so we had Tessa Stites, Josiah Smith, Twin Lakes, My Grandma's Cardigan, Levi Henry, Lore Weavers, Real Good People, Peas and Carrots, Sass, Porky's Groove Machine, Humbird, and the Bad Man. And then the after party was the Shackletons.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole swath of what was going to be 2 days. Pretty
And
much.
those are all bands from Rochester area, Twin Cities, and I want to say Madison. Is that kind of the circle that you were running?
Yeah. It's I think they're all like Southeast Minnesota or like Metro based. I think the farthest one out, Levi Henry he lives in St. Cloud.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's Rochester, Winona, Twin Cities, that kind of spread. So our kind of corner of the state down here, which was kind of the goal anyway of bringing those musicians together and showcasing them in a place that maybe some of them it was going to be their first time playing Rochester, and some of them obviously play here or have played here before. But yeah, so it was kind of a whole spread of genres and types of bands and sizes of bands and new faces, old faces, the whole lot of it.
And I know you said the pre-party was going to be at Little Thistle, and then you guys were at Castle, if I'm not mistaken, for the actual festival.
Yep, the Castle Community, which is it's downtown Rochester, and then the after party was going to be at Blue Duck Kitchen.
Okay, so you guys really made sure to kind of hit up every aspect of local, venues, local businesses, things like that, to kind of make it all Rochester centric,
Yeah,
like Rochester focused.
Yeah, all of the sponsors that we had were they have stake in Rochester. They're like our record stores, coffee shops, breweries. Like we had everybody had like teeth here in town, and so that was partially why we were able to get so much support, was because we were trying to build and keep building this thing that has been kind of budding in town here. And there's so much community support for all of this. And so it's a very Rochester centric sort of festival, and making sure people see different parts of town and experience kind of a little bit of everything if they were to come in for the full weekend.
And do you have a list of your sponsors as well?
Yes, let me go through, because there's a whole bunch of those, and I don't want to forget any of those either. Let's go play this. This is the fun part where I just click around until I find my my big sheet. Alrighty, so for sponsors that we had this year, there was Little Thistle Brewing Company, Thesis Beer Project, Pure Rock Studios, Collective Books, Queen City Coffee, Metronetic, Cafe Steam, Taco Jed, the Rochester Downtown Alliance, Tree Dome, Cameo, Carpet Booth Studios, Blue Duck, My Town, My Music, Superior Screeners, Rochester, and I believe that is the squad. Yeah, that looks right. That's the squad. So it's all companies and places that are all kind of local to here.
Absolutely. And then I also wanted to, I know you guys have Facebook page, you guys have Instagram. Do you guys have a website?
No, we just do Facebook, Instagram. Most of the information we push through for like ticket sales and stuff for the festival all goes through the Castle's website because they have all of that kind of squared up.
That infrastructure there.
Yeah. So our main channels are our Facebook and our Instagram is pretty much how we do everything. Obviously the GoFundMe is through GoFundMe's side. And we have an application. It's like a 4-question, super simple application that's just out. There's a link on all of our social media stuff for that as well. So people can go in if they're a Rochester musician who's been hit by all this, they can go in and it's essentially just so we know who you are and we can try and get in contact with you and help you when it's time to distribute all this stuff out.
Absolutely. And then how are you guys all feeling? Like, I know that this has to be just like a gut punch, you know, this has to be one of the worst things that you can feel for, you know, seeing a year's worth of work just poof gone.
That day wasn't the most fun day in the world. But I think the thing that's made it all better is after all of the announcements came out and all the executive orders and whatnot came out, one of the greatest things that we've noticed is just so much community support here in town. Like, you have like all of the local restaurants that are trying new things and pivoting how they function, and local breweries and like the studios going online now, and all of these people just supporting local and really pushing to support those really like the smaller Rochester based businesses, because it's now we're seeing kind of the impact of those places. Like, in addition to being located in a medical center, there's a lot of other things that happen to support that same exact thing, and those people that are working there, and that's the people working in the grocery stores and the coffee shops, the co-ops and the breweries and all that kind of stuff, and seeing the support for those places and those people, it's been kind of wild. Just and it's made the fact that we had to cancel, like, it doesn't hurt as bad because we're seeing how awesome this community is in supporting itself, essentially. So it's a lot of people looking out for everybody, which has been the best part of having all this free time in quarantine, is you see that kind of stuff all the time. But yeah, that's yes, it sucked. Yes, I wish we could have just done the festival and thrown the kind of party that we wanted to, but I think in the circumstances there's still a lot of positives that we can pull out of it, and it's that amount of community support and everything that's kind of come out, and it's always been there, but now everyone's really, really apparent, and it's all very apparent and very evident.
It's like the gain knob got turned up there.
Just a touch, but just in a different channel that you weren't expecting it to be on when you started doing any of this.
Absolutely. Nate, I wanted to thank you for your time, and you know, I'm excited to see what happens with you guys next. It sounds like you're gonna hit the ground running.
Yeah, we're excited to start doing stuff again. I mean, obviously we want to be safe, and we want everyone to be healthy and stay healthy and do all of those things. But yeah, we're excited to throw something together and hang out with everybody again.
Absolutely. All right.
We're glad you caught this episode of Tag Talks. Check the links in the description below to find further content and discover the artist's work for yourself. You can find more episodes of Tag Talks on Spotify or explore what else we do at www.theartistgrid.com and connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at The Artist Grid.